my name is Ashley Stormo and welcome to my channel. If you haven't figured out yet, I'm a bit of a movie fanatic. Going to the theaters is kind of my drug of choice. I'm there at least 2 days out of the week, and I'm pretty certain that all of the employees know me and my mother at this point. Oscar nominations are being held on Tuesday, and last year I did a video about my predictions, but I thought that this year I might do something a little different, hopefully a little more productive. I'm going to dissect some of these films. As an unbiased audience member, I thought I'd analyze them and figure out exactly what drew me to them and see if we can't find some kind of common ground to see if these different movies share any key ingredients to making a good film. Maybe I'm missing my writing college papers or something and I really feel the need to analyze, I don't know. So since one of my loves is screenwriting, I thought I'd take a look at some of the screenplays that were nominated at the Golden Globes. So we'll be looking at 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, The Post, Lady Bird, and Molly's Game. I'm not including The Shape of Water because I have not seen it yet. 3 Billboards is about a mother named Mildred whose daughter Angela was raped and murdered before the start of the film. She is angry that local authorities have not yet caught her daughter's killer, so she paints a provocative and upsetting message directed at the town's chief, Bill Willoughby, on, as the title suggests, 3 billboards. So essentially she is challenging the local authorities and asking them why they are more focused on discriminating against minorities than finding Angela's killer. One particular officer, Dixon, is especially hateful towards her, but he ends up redeeming his character. He believes that he has found the man responsible for Angela's death, only to find that the man he thought was guilty actually raped and killed someone else. Dixon and Mildred set off to kill this man to get symbolic revenge for Angela, although the audience is left unsure of whether or not they will follow through with their plan. This film also has subplots such as the chief having cancer, Mildred partaking in petty and large-scale crimes, etc. But to keep this concise, I'm sticking to the broader plot. So some things that we saw included dark comedy and inappropriate humor, character redemption, social commentary, flawed main character, a super flawed main character, and subplots that examine the human experience, such as no one being perfect. Honestly, this movie is one of my favorites of all time and a shining example of why I want to be in the film industry, but I'll stop gushing. The Post is about the journey that it took for the Pentagon Papers to be released to the public. It was a very behind-the-scenes operation. A man named Daniel copied the top secret papers about how the U.S. lied about the Vietnam War and released them to the New York Times. The Washington Post wanted to be taken seriously as a newspaper, so Tom Hanks, the editor, Ben Bradley, is determined to, be in competition with the New York Times, so they find a full copy of the papers. The real thrill comes when the paper's owner, Kay Graham, has to decide if she wants to take the risk and allow the paper to publish these documents because there is a federal restraining order against posting these, so they could all essentially get indicted.
Meaning? Well, we could all go to prison.
She chooses against the counsel of her Mayo board members to fight for the freedom of the press and publish them, and they do end up being taken to the Supreme Court where they win. So this film had social commentary, a lead who is struggling to find her voice. Meryl Streep presents this woman who is shy because she was raised in a different generation, a different era, and she's really learning to speak up for herself and to defend her position of power. I loved Meryl Streep in this. She was just showed such a vulnerable and very real, authentic feeling portrayal of a woman who's trying to find her voice. This also had subplots such as choosing between someone being a source and a friend, etc., etc. This movie, by the way, was written by Liz Hannah. I believe this was her first screenplay, and she's super young, and she's on Twitter. You should go check her out. Josh Singer wrote this too. Moving on, Lady Bird is a film that is coined as a love story between a mother and a daughter, but I'll call it a coming-of-age film. Lady Bird is a high school senior who is trying to find, or I guess, create herself, and she believes in herself fiercely. She has huge goals and ambitions, and she really wants to get into a college and leave Sacramento behind and trade it in for the sophistication of the East Coast.
I want to go to the East Coast.
I want to go where culture is, like
How
New
in the
York,
world did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire, where writers live in the
Get into
woods.
those schools anyway.
Mom!
She's at times a good friend and at times a bad friend. Sometimes she's kind, sometimes she's mean, which makes for a really dynamic teenage character. She also has a very up and down relationship with her mother, and by the end of the film, after revealing to her mom that she will not be going to community college but will be moving to the East Coast for school, her mom shuns her and gives Lady Bird the silent treatment, not even putting aside her pride to give a proper goodbye to her daughter. The story concludes when, after a drunken night, Lady Bird realizes she should have told her mom how much she loved her, and she leaves her mom a message. This film included a character who is creating herself, and she's also very dynamic and flawed but likable. Sometimes she's unlikable. There's a smidge of social commentary in here, and this film had extremely authentic dialogue. I mean, just look at that thrift store scene.
If you're tired, we can sit down.
I'm not tired.
You were dragging your feet.
You are so infuriating.
Please stop yelling.
I'm not yelling. Oh, it's perfect.
Do you love it?
The last film I'm going to comment on is Molly's Game. Based on a true story like The Post was, Molly Bloom was an Olympic hopeful who ended up running an exclusive poker game after an injury forced her to change her career ambitions. Some of the poker players included celebrities, members of royal families, important businessmen, and unbeknownst to her, Russian mob members. She is eventually arrested by the FBI for running the poker game illegally. They are also convinced that she knowingly had ties to the Russian mob, even though she didn't know about it. Her lawyer, Charlie, works with her on the case, and he comes to respect Molly. She is not willing to give out the names of the players in order to protect her name, even though it could get her out of trouble. She is eventually let off with community service, quoting Winston Churchill's definition of success as, quote, the ability to move from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. So this movie included, again, a dynamic character. She was a decent person. She wouldn't sell others out. She was motivated and intelligent and hungry, but she had an addictive personality, and she did break a few rules along the way. This also had a subplot about examining fathers and daughters. It had a little bit of social commentary, and it was quick-paced narration that also educated the audience, which was super refreshing in my opinion. It ended on a hopeful note with a lesson that the everyday person could apply to his or her own life. I'll say, side note, that as of this calendar year, out of the 6 films I've seen so far, this was still my favorite. Jessica Chastain was phenomenal.
Do you know how many witches were burned in Salem?
How many?
None. They didn't burn witches, it's a myth. They hanged them.
So looking at these 4 screenplays and movies, there are a few things that popped up in more than one, including characters who are dynamic. They're lovable, they're hateable, they're creating themselves, and they're sticking up for themselves. They all had subplots so that you don't have to solely rely on the main point of the movie to get something from it. And they also all had social commentary of some sort. Additionally, they all also ended with a lesson of some variation, whether it's something to ponder, something to apply to the audience member's own life, or even a message that you can compare to things that you've seen within your own reality. None of these things that are similar between these are groundbreaking news. These are all things that I have seen in my screenwriting classes, but I do think it is worth noting that these films all shared these key aspects, these key components. So maybe when you're writing, you should think about these and ask yourself if your story has plot and if that plot allows for a character to react in a way that is compelling and diverse and flawed and redeeming. Also, I'll just say that it's kind of cool that all of the nominated screenplays were about females. Just saying. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you would like the occasional video essay such as this. I had so much fun writing this. Like I said, I think I miss some analytical essays. 19 years of school, it's weird to just cold turkey not write any of these analytical things anymore. So let me know if you like these. I will be back on Wednesday with a new video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Please give this a like and follow me. And you should also all check out these movies in theaters if you can to support the industry. They are phenomenal.